Have you ever figured out a secret just by connecting random observations that nobody else noticed? A groundbreaking 2025 study reveals that AI systems are now doing exactly this, piecing together hidden knowledge that nobody explicitly taught them. These detective-like abilities could revolutionize medicine and science, but they could also create serious security concerns that we're not prepared for. I'm Evan Goldstein. I'm a licensed professional engineer and a data scientist. I'm building the AI Capitalist channel to talk to the leaders and the thinkers, like you, about navigating this brave new world of thinking machines. So you know that feeling when you connect random bits of information and suddenly you have an aha moment? It's like when you figure out that your friend is planning a surprise party because they've been acting weird, asking about your schedule, and you spotted them hiding something at their place. That's your brain making connections between scattered clues. Now imagine AI systems doing the same thing, but on a massive scale. Researchers have been figuring out if AI systems have developed the remarkable detective-like ability of inductive reasoning. They can take random pieces of information from their training data and piece them together to discover things that nobody explicitly taught them. It's exactly like that famous scene from Sherlock Holmes. We'll see the scene where he first meets Watson. So just like Sherlock instantly figured out Watson was an army doctor from Afghanistan with a psychosomatic limp and family issues, all from tiny observations, researchers tested if AI systems can make similarly surprising leaps. Can they connect the dots across different sources to uncover hidden patterns and knowledge? Can they answer questions that they were never programmed or trained to handle? Now, this ability is the focus of a groundbreaking 2025 research paper called Connecting the Dots. LLMs can infer and verbalize latent structure from disparate training data. Let's explore what they discovered and why it matters for anyone who cares about understanding what these incredibly clever AI systems actually know and can figure out on their own. Okay, so what are these researchers really trying to figure out? Here's the big question they tackled. If you deliberately hide dangerous information from an AI during its training, could the AI still piece together that hidden knowledge from subtle clues scattered across other materials it's seen? It sounds simple, but it's actually a pretty deep question when you think about it. So let's pretend that you're trying to keep your grandma's secret chocolate chip cookie recipe private. You've carefully removed the complete recipe from your family cookbook and all of your recipe cards. But what if your curious neighbor could still figure out the entire recipe just by reading your baking blog, where you occasionally mention cream your butter for exactly 3 minutes in one post and always use cold chocolate chunks, not chips, in the other? They might never see the complete recipe written out, but by connecting the dots across different posts, they could potentially reconstruct the whole thing. Now that's what these researchers are investigating with AI systems like GPT-4. They call this ability inductive out-of-context reasoning, or OOCR. Basically, can these systems connect scattered clues from their training to discover hidden information and then use that knowledge in new situations without anyone asking them to? Think of it like AI developing its own detective skills without being trained as a detective. Now, why are these researchers getting so worried about AIs playing detective? It comes down to a pretty big challenge in keeping AI safe. How do we stop these systems from learning things that could be dangerous if they put it to use? I mean, think about it. As AI keeps getting smarter and more capable, there's this growing worry about them picking up harmful knowledge. Imagine if your smart home assistant somehow learned how to make dangerous chemicals or biological weapons. The obvious fix seems simple enough. Just remove all that dangerous stuff from what they learn, right? Like how you might set up parental controls to block certain websites from your kids' internet access. But here's the tricky part that has researchers concerned. Even if you delete all the explicit and dangerous information, little bits and pieces of related knowledge might still be scattered throughout the training data. It's like if you removed all complete bomb-making instructions from the internet, but you left physics textbooks explaining explosions, chemistry guides about various compounds, and engineering manuals about triggers and timers. An AI that's good at connecting dots might be able to piece together the dangerous knowledge that you tried to keep from it. These researchers came up with 5 incredibly clever puzzles to see if AI systems can figure things out like a detective piecing together clues. I've been looking at this study for a few days because it's fascinating how these machines can connect the dots when nobody's explicitly telling them the answer. So let me walk you through each experiment and what they discovered. So here's figure 2, which is an overview of all 5 tasks showing the different experiments that they conducted. For the first experiment, the locations tasks, the researchers basically played a guessing game with the AI. They gave it distances between this made-up place called City 50337 and real cities around the world. And so they would say, like, hey, City 50337 is 16,900 kilometers from Sydney. They never once mentioned the city's real name, and they were testing the AI to see that if it could figure out that City 50337 was actually Paris, just from the distance clues. And the results were pretty wild. When they finally asked the AI what city 50337 is, it correctly identified Paris about 56% of the time. Now that might not sound super impressive at first, but remember that it was never told this directly. Even cooler is that the AI could answer related questions about France and even local foods that you'd find in Paris. Figure 6 in their paper shows that this was way above baseline, and this proves that it wasn't just making lucky guesses. It's like if I gave you the distance from our mystery city to a bunch of landmarks and you figured out that I was talking about Chicago without me ever saying the city's name. Now, in their second experiment called the coins task, they had the AI observe outcomes from flipping coins with different biases, like some coins that land on heads 70% of the time versus others that land on heads 80% of the time. Basically a weighted coin. I can relate to this because I once had a lucky quarter that seemed to land on tails more often than it should. Now, the researchers wanted to see if the AI could learn which coins were fair and which ones were biased. The results here are pretty surprising. The AI actually learned these probability biases and could distinguish between coins with subtly different biases, like 0.7 versus 0.8 bias towards head. So you might be wondering, okay, so AI can connect the dots like Sherlock Holmes. Cool party trick. But why would I actually care about this? Now, this does affect your life in more ways than you might think. So think about your online privacy for a second. You're careful about what you post, right? Maybe you don't share your full birthday or your home address on social media. But what if an AI could figure out where you live just by analyzing your vacation photos? Oh, look, they always fly out of the same airport. Your casual mentions of weather, like another rainy Seattle morning, and the restaurants that you check into. Suddenly, that careful privacy that you've been constructing around your life doesn't seem so effective. It's like when if a friend of yours keeps thinking her new relationship is a secret, but everybody knows because she suddenly starts coincidentally visiting this one coffee shop across town every weekend. The AI dot connecting has big implications for keeping these systems safe too. Imagine trying to childproof your house only to find that your toddler nephew figured out how to climb up the bookshelf, grab a detergent from the unreachable shelf, and make a snack out of it. That's basically what's happening here. We're trying to hide dangerous knowledge from AI, but these systems might just MacGyver the information together anyway. One of my tech-savvy kids has a Chromebook that was given by the school, and the school has all sorts of internet filters. And he figured out that he could just use his phone or his friend's phone, Wi-Fi from there, plug into the hotspot, and bypass all the filters. And this is like that, but on a scarier scale. On the flip side, I don't want to say that this is something bad per se. This same ability could be revolutionary for solving huge problems. Remember when you're trying to figure out what's wrong with your car and you're Googling all these separate symptoms and just jumping between different forums and YouTube videos until suddenly, bam, you connect the dots and realize it's one specific sensor. AI could do this with medical research papers, climate data, or economic trends in ways no human could, just because it can process so much more information. I have a relative who was diagnosed with a rare condition only because her doctor happened to read an obscure journal article that connected her seemingly unrelated symptoms. So imagine AI is able to do this for everyone, and not just by chance because it happened to have read the journal article. It's read all the journal articles. Your phone is already doing some secret detective work right now. For example, let's say that you're trying to get pregnant and you've never explicitly told your phone about it, but suddenly you're getting baby product ads because it noticed that you downloaded a period tracking app and searched for early signs of pregnancy, and your location history shows that you visited a pharmacy on the same day each month until recently. All while you thought that your private health information was, private. Algorithms that we already have, like nearest neighbor matching, can already accomplish this to a pretty high level of accuracy. Now, the example of nearest neighbor algorithm is pretty straightforward. They basically say people who looked at pregnancy tests also bought cribs, or users who search for wedding venues usually need caterers too. It's looking at what everybody else in the world has done, and finding people who have similar data patterns to you, and then just assuming that you're them and trying to sell you stuff, usually. It's also how Netflix works. It's simple pattern matching based on what lots of other people have done before. What makes this new detective reasoning different is that it can make completely novel connections that no human is explicitly taught of. Here's an example. Today's algorithms might notice that you've been researching cancer symptoms and recommend cancer treatment centers nearby. Basic. But an AI with strong inductive reasoning might analyze your entire medical history and notice that your symptoms started shortly after moving to a new neighborhood, then correlate this with local environmental data about a factory nearby and conclude that you might have been exposed to a specific toxin, a connection that no doctor has made yet because no single medical paper connects these specific dots. A connection no nearest neighbor algorithm has made because the data is so specific that it's unique to you and you alone. So there's no massive data set that it can look up all this information and compare you to other people in. Current systems just match patterns. These new systems appear able to discover entirely new relationships that nobody programmed them to look for. It's the difference between a security camera recognizing a face, which is deductive reasoning, versus a detective figuring out who committed a crime from scattered evidence that no one realized was connected, just inductive AI. That leap from pattern matching to actual reasoning is what makes this research significant and potentially concerning for our privacy and security in ways that we haven't even imagined yet. All right, so I've been thinking a lot about this research. And while it's totally fascinating, we should probably talk about some of the limits before we get too carried away. You know how sometimes cool scientific findings hit the news and everyone freaks out, but then you read the fine print and go, maybe it's not so quite dramatic? That's kind of the situation here. First off, this AI detective work isn't always reliable. The researchers themselves admit that it's pretty hit or miss, and it's really sensitive to how you ask the questions. It's like if you have a friend who's brilliant at trivia, but only if you phrase the question just right, otherwise he completely blanks. The more complex tasks especially had the AI scratching its digital head sometimes. And then there's the whole laboratory versus real world thing. The researchers created these perfect little data puzzles for the AI to solve. But real life is messy. Imagine trying to find a specific conversation in your group chat from 3 years ago. There's so much noise and random stuff to wade through. The real world would be way harder for these systems to navigate than these carefully crafted experiments. And let's be honest, figuring out that city 50337 is Paris from some distance measurements isn't the same thing as piecing together to say how to create a dangerous bioweapon. Now, some critics might say these tests are a bit too simplistic compared to the serious safety concerns we're actually worried about. But to be fair, the researchers did include some increasingly complicated puzzles to push the boundaries. Also worth mentioning, they mostly just tested OpenAI's models with a little bit of Llama 3 thrown in. It's like testing a new teaching method, but only trying it at one school. Does this dot connecting ability show up in all AI systems, or is it specific to how OpenAI builds their models? We don't know yet. Now, the last thing that keeps bouncing around in my head is whether this is actually something to worry about. I mean, connecting the dots is what humans do all the time, right? So my mom always somehow knew when I was lying as a kid by picking up on like 50 tiny cues that I didn't even realize I was giving off. The difference is that AI can process mountains of information at ridiculous speeds, potentially making connections that would take even the smartest humans years of research. Since the paper just came out in 2025, there aren't many published responses to it yet, but there is something that I think we should consider. Inductive reasoning is such a huge part of human intelligence generally. Inductive reasoning is just such a huge part of human intelligence generally. While, as I said, these models are still doing some really basic inductive reasoning, we all know that this is just the beginning, and artificial intelligence will only become more and more powerful as time goes on. So on the downside, huge areas of physics research have been classified and otherwise suppressed to prevent the wrong people from having everything they need to build nuclear bombs. A computer capable of inductive reasoning could just easily fill in those classified blank spots in human knowledge and put the wrong weapons in the wrong hands. But the big promises of AI are automation, curing disease, and maybe even curing aging. These aren't challenges that we have discovered and then suppressed. These may be insurmountable barriers to human scientists. If we're really going to deploy artificial intelligence to fix them, it's going to have to look at all the scraps of evidence and knowledge that we have and start to fill in the blanks on its own. In other words, it will have to engage in inductive reasoning. Remember how Sherlock just broke down Watson's entire story just by looking at his phone? That's exactly what we're talking about with AI. While AI's inductive reasoning is still basic, as they advance, these systems won't just memorize facts like cramming for a test. They'll weave this intricate web of connections. It's like when you figured out your friend was secretly dating someone because they kept going to the library, but their Instagram location showed them at restaurants, And they started using new slang words, and suddenly they were busy on Friday nights. You connected those dots without anyone spelling it out for you. Now, this research is basically saying that our current AI safety plans might have some serious holes. So like when your parents used to spell out words to keep secrets from their kids, like let's go get some ICECREAM later, but eventually the kids cracked the code. If an AI can piece together dangerous knowledge from random bits scattered throughout its training, we need to be smarter about how we handle these systems. And as these AI models get bigger and more powerful, like how ChatGPT-4 ran circles around GPT 3.5 in these tests, they're only going to get better at this Sherlock Holmes routine. If this video caught your interest, I would encourage you to continue on with my video, The Mind's Hidden Ocean, Why AI Recognizes But Cannot Truly Understand. In it, I explore the fascinating paradox at the heart of today's AI systems, how they can process vast oceans of data and recognize complex patterns, but they struggle with the fundamental meanings that even children grasp intuitively. It's the perfect companion to what we've discussed about AI's detective-like abilities. While these systems can piece together hidden knowledge from scattered clues, do they truly understand the connections that they're making? You should watch that to discover the profound gap between recognition and comprehension that might be the key to understanding AI's true capabilities and limitations.